everyone, it's Jackie Williams and thank you so much for joining me. In this video, we're going to make a fun fold card, although it's not really a fun fold, it's more like an interactive card, something that would be very cute for a young person or anyone who loves to have cards that have movable parts. And I will be using the driving by stamp set for my sample, but of course, feel free to use the measurements and the concepts and use any images that work for you. So this is the driving by stamp set, and this one is free with purchase. It's a level 1 celebration gift. So if you are in New Zealand, it's $110 spend to get this one for free through the 16th of March. Now, I love this stamp set. It's just such a cute little one with cars, perfect for anyone who likes cars, and probably really for any age. And I also just want to show you briefly, this is the Paradise Palms stamp set and die set. And we are going to be using this in our sample, but also in some of the other samples I'm going to show you at the end of this video, I'll be using this set. So just wanted to show you where the other images and dies came from. Now we're going to start with a card base that is 7 inches by 8 1/4 inches and then fold it in half. So you're going to end up with a card front that is 7 inches by about 4 1/8 inch. Then you're going to need another piece, and this is going to create our slider portion. And this one is 6 7/8 inches by 4. And you could just use this. You don't actually need another portion on top, but I want to have just a little road for my car. But this, like I said, is optional. So we want to adhere that to our card front. However, I'm going to create a slot in here through the middle. So I don't want to put adhesive into the middle. It just makes it that much harder to actually cut through. So I'm just going to put a thin line of Tombow glue around those 4 edges. Then I'm going to use this kind of lattice woven type die. This is from the Paradise Palms bundle that I showed you earlier. Now, we don't actually need this inner portion, but what this is going to do is cut a slot right into our cardstock. Now, you don't have to have this die, of course. You could use a punch that's sort of this width and just punch it maybe several times. If you have a little label die that's kind of this thin sort of shape, you could die cut that maybe 2 or 3 times just to create that slotted effect. So once it's been cut, you'll end up with something like this. Oh, I should have changed my background. It's very similar to my paper, but you can see that you've got a slot, and then you've got this piece here, which when I push out the little bits will have this really great patterned die cut. And I'll just save that for another project on another day. Now our next step will be to embellish this top portion, and I want to use some clouds. So I'm using the cloud punch. And this piece of paper is from the Sunshine and Rainbows paper pack. Now, you don't have to have this particular paper pack. You could just cut out clouds from printed paper, or you could use white clouds on top of white paper for a more subtle effect. So I've got those already punched out, and now I'm just going to place them onto my project. So I'm going to place some kind of right in the middle first, and then I'll build outwards. And one thing I want to point out is even on the paper where you've got these like partial clouds, those are actually still useful because you can just place those on the edges of your project like this. So you can use your punch and punch out all of the images out of this paper and make use of every last bit of it. Now, if you end up with any that are hanging over the edge, you can just trim those off. And then I would keep that because you might use that somewhere else. Now we're ready to assemble our slider card. So the next thing we need to have is actually the piece that is going to do the sliding. So for this one, I have cut a piece that's 7 inches by 1 1/4 inches. And I've used thick basic white. And I've even actually cut 2 pieces and adhered them together so it's extra sturdy You don't have to do that, but it just gives you that little bit more sturdiness. So I know that that wants to be positioned about here. So I'm going to turn that over and just make sure that that is covering the slot. And this end is going to stick out just a little bit from the card. Now this is a really great opportunity to use your adhesive strips. These are the long pieces of thin dimensionals. If you don't have these at home, you could use the edge pieces of your dimensionals, but I would recommend putting these on your next order. They are really handy, not only for things like this, but for shaker cards. So what we want to do is create basically a little box where this piece can sit. I might have even put that one just a little bit closer. Then once all of your pieces are on, you can peel off the backings. I would go ahead and just move that out of the way and then place that onto your card front, lining it up on all the edges. Now, as an extra, this is not something that you have to do, but you could put some little images here. So as your piece is sliding, some images are exposed or some words. So this one, you do a great job of being a great guy. This is from the A Good Man set, is just the right size. So I'm going to put it over here and just make sure that you put it more to the left. If you put it over here to the right, there's a chance that not the full image or the full words will be exposed when your truck has moved over to the right. Okay, now we can go ahead and slide in our slider piece. You see how nicely that fits in and that covers up. Now I really wanted to use this car with the little presents on top and make this a birthday card, but I have just realized that the car is going to be going backwards. So I really needed to have put this on the other side, which I didn't. So I'm going to use the van, which is just as cute. But I do think that if it's going to be a birthday card, the little one with the presents on top is adorable. Maybe I'll put that inside the card. Actually, I think I will. So I just wanted to point out too that I have used the crystal effects on the windows. So this is our shimmery crystal effects, and it's really helpful, particularly if you haven't used it for a while, if you just hold it for a couple of minutes in your hands and let the heat of your hands warm it up. Mine's pretty warm. I've been using it all day. And then I find it works best for me anyway to hold it like this, which is a little bit awkward, but then you get really good pressure. And then you're just going to very slowly squeeze it out and move your hand and fill in each window. And if you're having trouble with it, it's probably because you need to just squeeze out a little bit more. And then you'll get this nice, thick, shiny shellac sort of look. I think you can see that. And, but what you will need to do is let that dry for quite a few hours. I'd say at least 2 or 3. Of course, it depends how thick you've put it on and how humid it is where you live. But it does take a long time to dry. So just be aware of that when you're doing your projects. So what I'm going to do here is use a bit of our foam tape, or you could use some dimensionals and just place that into the slot. And then place my van over top. There we go. Now our slider portion is complete. You see how that works? It's quite cute. Now, there's just a few other extra things you could do for this project. I'm going to take these little X stamps, and these are from the Hello Beautiful stamp set, just some little X's. You may have something similar or some little stitching lines, and you could also do this before you put this in. And I'm doing this in Smoky Slate. And I'm not going to be too fussed if it's not, you know, perfect, because this is kind of a cartoon looking stamp. So I think I could pull it out. That's good thinking. There we go, like that. Then you have the words and the little X's that mark the road on there. Now the next thing is we'll add our happy birthday onto the front, and this one is from Happiest of Birthdays, and it's just this one here. I like this one because you can stamp it and then just use your scissors to cut that out, and I'll put that up on dimensionals. And you can kind of decide where that looks best. I like it here. It kind of balances out the van. And you'll also notice that I put a little hole in the end here and just some little twine, just so it's a little more obvious to pull it. And then inside, I just have a couple layers of cardstock. Then I'm just going to utilize some of those clouds that I have punched out. And then I think I'll go ahead and use this card that I had planned to use. So there you go. You can learn from my mistakes. Check which direction those cars are going. All right, and there you go. Now this is the one that I've made earlier. And this one I did a little bit of paper piecing using also the Sunshine and Rainbows paper pack. And then inside just put one of the clouds. Now I didn't talk too much about the coloring in of the van or the car. I use Stampin' Blends, but I've done quite a few videos on Stampin' Blends, so I'll refer you to those if you would like to learn a little bit more about coloring. Then I have another cute sample, and this was inspired by an idea that I saw on Pinterest. I thought making a little 70s van was quite cute. And you can see this time I have heat embossed the X's on the road and used a little bit of that In Good Taste paper, which has got concrete print on there. And I have used the paper piecing on the van, so I've stamped that on the Pattern Party paper. And these two papers are from Pattern Party as well, to have this fun rainbow look, and then added the flowers, which do look very 70s. I also wanted to just show you inside. I cut this white to the wrong size, and rather than tossing it or trying to fiddle with it, I just used a scrap from cutting the paper on the front and just covered up that edge that was not quite right. So that's just another way that you can fix a mistake. Also wanted to show you that I did use that crystal effects on the windows for this little van too. And this sample here is inspired by Amy Coenders. I think that's how you say her name. And I did change it up quite a bit, but I really liked the look of this. So I mentioned that we were using the Paradise Palms. So this is one of the stamps that's in there. And then I just cut out and colored two of the vans. And again, used crystal effects on the windows. I think that when you have a car and if you've got the crystal effects, I think that it really adds something to add that to the windows. And then I've got the Stitched with Whimsy around the outside, which just really gives it a nice frame and a finish without detracting from your main images. And then this time I used a long sentiment kind of as my road, and I thought that was quite fun. And the black and white paper just complement that as well. And then this sample, I'm really happy with this one. Also using the Paradise Palms dies and paired with the Driving By stamp set. This one I have used, other than this wood grain paper behind here, I have used entirely white cardstock and colored the tree and the sun and the grass and the van with the new Natural Tones Stampin' Blends. I really, really love how those all work together and complement our existing blends. So there'll be more on those Stampin' Blends later, and I've added some of those fun little pebbles to this one as well. And then my last sample is just a simple one. This one is using the Abstract Beauty printed cards. It's really handy to have a pack of cards that already have printed backgrounds on them. So I just had one of these cards left over, just did a simple stamp, added the car, and then a little trail of hearts, which is just kind of cute and fun. And then inside just added a little bit more of the hearts. So sometimes when you are making projects and you have leftover bits and pieces, having those pre-printed cards is really handy to just make a quick card with your leftovers. So there you go. I hope that you give this really fun and easy slider card a try, and that you have fun with your Driving By stamp set as well. This is Jackie Williams. Please leave me a comment and share this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.